Our next story is about the biggest unsolved maritime mystery of the modern era. What happened to the MV Derbyshire? On September 9, 1980, the sun rose over the endless expanse of the Pacific Ocean. For the crew of the MV Derbyshire, it was just another day at sea. They were nearing the final leg of their long journey, having spent weeks navigating the vast waterways of the world. Their ship, loaded with a hefty cargo of 150,000 tons of iron ore, was a floating fortress, laden with the raw materials that fueled industries across continents. Weeks earlier, the ship had departed Canada, bidding farewell to the familiar shores of home. Now, as they moved closer to their destination, Japan, the crew's thoughts were turning towards the end of their arduous voyage. The promise of cool Japanese beer awaited them, along with the joy of sharing tales of the high seas with friends and family. MV Derbyshire wasn't just any ship. It was part of a new breed of vessels designed to conquer the logistical challenges of the global market. Known as orbital coil carriers, these ships were marvels of modern engineering, built to transport iron ore, oil and other bulk goods across the oceans with unmatched efficiency. The idea was simple yet revolutionary: reduce the cost of shipping by maximizing the capacity of each voyage. No more empty returns. These ships were the epitome of this new era in shipping. And the Derbyshire, with its sleek design and robust build, was among the best of the lot. At the helm of this floating behemoth was Captain Geoffrey Underhill, a man whose life was as vast and deep as the ocean he commanded. With more than 2 decades of experience navigating the world's waters, he had seen his fair share of storms, shipwrecks, and quiet stretches at sea. His weathered face was a map of his journeys, his eyes reflecting the wisdom gained from countless voyages. To his crew, he was more than just a captain. He was a guiding light, a protector, and a beacon of calm in the face of the sea's fury. Underhill was not sailing uncharted waters. He had been here before, traversing these routes, reading the winds and predicting the tides. But this time was different. This voyage was not just another chapter in his logbook. It was a race against time. The captain's thoughts often drifted beyond the horizon, where his wife awaited him in Japan. After months at sea, the thought of finally being reunited with her fueled his determination. He could almost taste the sweet relief of being back on solid ground, of feeling his wife's embrace and sharing stories of his adventures over a steaming bowl of noodles. But as the Derbyshire sliced through the waves, a dark cloud loomed on the horizon, threatening to shatter the crew's hopes of a peaceful end to their journey. Typhoon Orchid was bearing down on them. For the crew of the Derbyshire, the storm wasn't just a weather event. It was a test of endurance, a battle against the very elements. Days turned into nights as they grappled with the storm's wrath. The wind screamed like a banshee, the waves crashed like angry giants, and the rain poured down in sheets. Inside the ship, the crew hunkered down, battling not just the storm, but also the fear that gnawed at their hearts. The ship groaned under the strain, its metal bones creaking as if in pain. Every bolt and rivet was tested, every seam and joint was pushed to its limit. The men huddled together, their faces illuminated by the dim glow of the lanterns, their eyes reflecting the flickering flames dancing in the distance. They were cut off from the outside world, their lifeline to civilization severed by the storm. As the typhoon raged, the crew of the Derbyshire became a tight-knit band of brothers. They shared stories, jokes and fears, finding solace in each other's company. There was young Thomas, his hands calloused from years at sea, his eyes shining with a mix of fear and determination. Beside him sat James, a giant of a man with a booming laugh, his presence a comfort in the raging storm. Then there was John, the ship's cook, his face creased with worry, his hands clasped together in silent prayer. Together, they faced the wrath of the typhoon, their unity a testament to the human spirit's resilience. But as the hours dragged on, the storm showed no signs of abating. The wind only seemed to grow stronger, the waves more relentless. There was a heavy silence in the room, broken only by the howling wind and the crashing waves. They were all thinking the same thing, wondering whether they would see the next sunrise. For Captain Underhill, the situation was critical. Every seasoned sailor knows the unpredictability of a typhoon, their raw, untamed power capable of tearing even the mightiest ship to shreds. But he never expected this level of ferocity. He paced the deck, his gaze fixed on the horizon, his mind racing. He tried to calculate the ship's position, to estimate the storm's trajectory, but the elements had conspired to create a perfect maelstrom that defied logic and reason. With each passing moment, the storm intensified, pushing the Derbyshire and its crew to the very brink. Despite the chaos around him, Captain Underhill remained resolute, issuing orders, calming the crew, trying to maintain a sense of control in the face of nature's fury. But as the night wore on, the reality of their fate became increasingly clear. As dawn broke, the crew emerged from their quarters to a scene that stole their breath away. The storm had reached its crescendo. Waves crashed over the deck, wind screamed in their ears, and rain lashed against their faces. The once familiar surroundings had been transformed into a chaotic battleground. But amidst the chaos, there was a glimmer of hope. The storm, it seemed, had begun to weaken. The waves, though still mighty, were not as towering as before. The wind, though still present, had lost some of its biting edge. The crew looked at each other, their faces etched with relief and exhaustion. They had weathered the worst of the typhoon, but their ordeal was far from over. As the crew began to assess the damage, a horrifying realization dawned on them. The ship was in peril, its hull breached, its cargo shifting, its fate hanging precariously in the balance. With the storm having passed, the true extent of the damage inflicted by Typhoon Orchid became evident. The ship's hull bore the scars of the battle, gashes and cracks marring its once proud exterior. The cargo, once neatly stacked, was now a jumbled mess, its shifting having thrown the ship off balance. And as the crew moved about, assessing the damage, there was a heavy silence that settled over them. They had survived the storm, but now they were facing the grim reality of their fate. As the gravity of their situation sunk in, the crew sprang into action. They worked tirelessly to stabilize the ship, to patch up the holes in the hull and secure the shifting cargo. But their efforts seemed like drops in the ocean, futile attempts to hold back the tide. With each passing moment, the Derbyshire lurched and swayed, its fate sealed by the unforgiving whims of the sea. The ship's log tells a chilling tale of the final hours of the MV Derbyshire. As the crew struggled to keep the ship afloat, they sent out their last distress signals into the unforgiving vastness of the sea, hoping against hope that someone, somewhere, might receive their desperate pleas for help. But their messages, like tiny boats in a raging storm, were lost in the unforgiving expanse of the ocean. And so the drama of the Derbyshire played out on an otherwise tranquil sea. No one witnessed the struggle, no one heard the cries of distress, and when the ship finally succumbed to the relentless waves, it did so in silence. The MV Derbyshire, with its crew of 42, including the experienced Captain Geoffrey Underhill, vanished beneath the waves, leaving behind nothing but a trail of unanswered questions. The sinking of the MV Derbyshire remains a haunting enigma in maritime history. Despite extensive investigations and countless theories, the truth behind its disappearance continues to elude us. What caused this modern marvel of engineering to vanish without a trace? Was it a fatal flaw in its design, the wrath of Mother Nature, or the cruel whims of fate? Perhaps the answer lies buried beneath the waves, along with the Derbyshire and its crew.